And good evening to you, fellow Thunder Wizards. Okay, so today I want to talk to you about psychic abilities. Specifically, what I want to talk to you about is, well, we'll talk a lot about that, and I want to talk to you about how divination works. So I would make a distinction between psychic abilities, psychic readings, and divination. But I will be sharing with you what it is within the human body that is able to receive information and interpret information, which also I will be sharing with you how people can have psychic experiences and still get wrong information or still interpret it wrong, or how people can think that they're having a psychic experience when in reality they're not having any kind of supernatural experience whatsoever. And I'm going to say that the majority of psychic experiences, I would say, are either not psychic experiences or people are misinterpreting the information that they're getting. So, in order to understand that, we need to understand how the individual is made up, and energetically and spiritually how we receive information, and then how we process it. So, psychic abilities really aren't that impressive to me. And as I was sharing and have shared numerous times, but I was sharing yesterday, psychic abilities or spiritual abilities don't mean anything. If somebody has a gift of healing, or they have a psychic ability, or whatever we would look upon as somebody having a spiritual ability, the telekinesis, whatever it is, it's real easy for us to think that that means that this is a spiritually advanced person, and that I have proven to myself through experience and through observation that that's just not the case. It's just like any other ability. And oftentimes it's an ability that has been acquired through a lot of practice and a lot of work, or it's something that is a result of past life experiences that have built up in the aura, and it gets released in the aura, and we experience it as a spiritual gift or a spiritual ability, a supernatural ability. And so people want to ascribe some kind of higher development because somebody has a gift. It doesn't mean that at all. But let us talk about how this is done. How is it that somebody can become, actually, not how can they become, how is psychic information received and then interpreted within the human being? So, we are made up of three, not one, but we are made up of three selves. I'm looking here to see if I have a little picture of the three selves. And you know what? I do. All right, so the three selves correspond location-wise with the Chinese understanding of dantians. Now, this is a whole different thing because that has to do with energy, but the three selves are in the same spot. We have a higher self, which is up here in the third eye area. We have a lower self, which is down in the navel. And then we have the middle self, which is here in the heart center. So, it's important to understand how these three selves, these three energy vortexes work in order to understand how psychic information is received and processed and interpreted. So, left to ourselves, the human being, when energy is flowing, when we are not conflicted by fear or other emotional or psychological conflicts, which usually, it's sort of, imagine emotional psychological conflicts like, bugs on your windshield. If you're driving through the desert, hundreds of miles through the desert, bugs will end up caking up on your windshield. If you're able to get rid of all the bugs and clean off the windshield, you can see clearly. So we as human beings, if we factor out past life karmic issues and present life conflicts, which would include conflicts that you gain, through as you grow up, whatever dysfunction you have in your family or in your society. Those things are sort of like bugs on the windshield. They can get in the way of our ability to see clearly. But if we get rid of all that, then every person has the ability to receive psychic information and to process it and to interpret it. Interestingly, sort of a side topic here, in the ancient Norse tradition, the ancient Germanic tradition, there were two types of what we would call shamans. And I'm using the word shaman loosely. Shaman means an individual who acts as an intermediary between the human and the spiritual realm. So, that covers a lot of people. So there were two types of shamans in the ancient pre-Christian Germanic tradition. There was I'm losing my words now. There was the seethe shaman, which seethe means to boil. And this was usually a woman or somebody who was accessing the feminine. And they passively would allow the gods to mount them, to possess them. And sometimes the gods would speak through them, and or they would see visions. Vulvas would see visions, and they would come back and explain what they saw. Or if a god is speaking through them, they might not remember anything. They may have the sense that something's happening through them, but then after the deity has left or the spirit has left, they don't remember what happened. It's also true when, I work with a lot of female practitioners who have visions. And so they come to me with their visions and not knowing what the visions mean. And so this is important to understand. A lot of people want to become seethe shamans because we're looking at it from a modern perspective. We think a shaman is somebody who goes into the other world, and so we want to have this experience, and we want to say, I traveled to the other world and I saw this. But understand that a seethe shaman needs the wizard, needs the masculine aspect of it in order to be able to interpret. Because the masculine, and the name of it is of the Germanic masculine shaman is escaping me at the moment. But the masculine was necessary to interpret what the feminine was experiencing. So if a seethe shaman has a vision and goes to another world and has a vision, they may not have any idea what the hell it means. So they go to the wizard and they say, I saw this and I saw this. And the wizard then has the ability to interpret what that means. So the wizard needs the seethe shaman and the seethe shaman needs the wizard. So again, I just want to address that. This is another new age thing. Everybody wants to be a seethe shaman and they think that's really, well, there's definitely a place for that. But just because you have a seethe shaman experiences doesn't mean you're going to understand what you're experiencing. So if what you're wanting to do is understand these experiences, then, is that really what you want? And again, it's important, look, spirituality, and I guess, I'm making a distinction between spirituality and paranormal or supernatural experiences. People confuse the two. Supernatural experiences aren't spiritual. It's part of reality. We get all bent out of shape about it in modern times because for the last, 2,000 years, Europe has been separating itself from paranormal and supernatural experiences. And so when we have them, we think that they're spiritual. They're not spiritual, they're supernatural. Spiritual is emotional, psychological, and spiritual maturity. So that's all it is. It's just being mature. It's the difference between being a child, being a selfish, self-centered, narcissistic, potentially destructive child, and being a responsible, mature adult. That's all it is, except we're applying it to the supernatural realm, and we call it spirituality. So, on the whole, we need to grow up in this way. Our ancestors had what we now call fairy tales. But what's interesting is in the fairy tales, the people of power are not automatically viewed as being righteous or as being evolved or being enlightened. The wizard can be an evil wizard or a good wizard. The witch can be a good witch or a bad witch. It just means that this is somebody who has an ability or has learned through practice to, cast spells or connect to the other side. They still have to decide if they're going to be mature about it, if they're going to use these abilities to help others. It's the same way somebody who has the ability to fight. Are they going to be a protector, or are they going to go out and be a bully and be a murderer? Same way. There's really, we gotta get rid of this idea that supernatural experiences means evolved spirituality. It doesn't. But we do need this part of ourselves in order to be complete. So I was going to talk today about runes as well. But before I get into runes, let's talk about the three selves and how energy, psychic information is taken in. So, as I was saying, if your windshield is clear of bugs, in other words, if you are free of conflict internally and or karmically, then everybody has the ability to receive psychic information. And there's multiple ways that it works. So let me explain some of the ways that I'm aware of. So the three selves, as I said, the upper, the middle, and the lower self, when all of these three selves are in communication with each other, then information and psychic information can flow freely. So what normally happens is that the upper center receives information, and this is happening all the time. Your upper center is constantly receiving information from the ancestors, from the elves, from the gods. And then the higher self sends this information down to the dwarves in the lower self. And in the lower self, the dwarves are emotional, energetic beings. This is where our emotions are. It's the home of our unconscious as well as our subconscious minds. And so we receive this information down in the lower self. And if the channels are clear between all three selves, then the lower self will send that information to the middle self, where your soul resides, where your conscious mind is focused. Your consciousness is here. The person that's talking to me, listening to me talk, the person in me that's talking is the conscious self, and it's located here. This is your soul. Okay? So the soul will receive information from the lower self, and the lower self receives information from the higher self. Now, as I said, if these three selves are not communicating because of emotional conflict, fear, all kinds of other things, karmic issues, then you may not be receiving in your lower self the information. Your upper self might be wanting to give you information, but your lower self can't take it because it's full of chaos and all kinds of other stuff and fear, and so that blocks all of that. But let me give you another example. So this next example, in my experience, is the majority of your street side psychic. You go to a psychic fair, or you go to a psychic bookshop. The person sitting on the other side of the psychic sign. This is what you run into, what I'm about to explain here. So here we have somebody who has a powerful lower self, And so they have strong intuition. This is where your intuition is in your lower self. And in your lower self, these people have the ability to receive information from multiple sources. Now, if they are somebody who is using their psychic ability for personal aggrandizement, then what is going to happen is they will naturally become good con artists. That doesn't mean that they don't have a gift. It means that they're using it to control other people and get information from other people and all that kind of stuff. So this happens with the lower self. And I'll share an experience that I had. I've shared it before, but this is what taught me how the lower self can have this ability and can be receiving information, and the information can be completely false. So I went to a psychic 30-something years ago. I was in my 20s. I think just for fun. I was single and I was lonely and I was horny and I wanted to know when I was going to find my soulmate. So I went to this psychic, and this was a psychic that wasn't, I don't remember, but I don't think she used any tools. I don't think she used tarot or anything. I think she just used her intuition. So she started to describe to me the woman I was going to meet. And she was describing in great detail. And it was absolutely my fantasy. Now, there's no way she could have known that because I didn't give her any information. So I do believe she was intuiting information. And it would be very easy for me to go, oh my God, she's so accurate. That's exactly what I'm looking for. And I remember her saying to me this and this, and trust me, it's going to happen. I'm telling you, this is what you're going to experience, and it's going to be. And she gave me a time frame, of course, in the next few months or something like that. And none of it happened. Nothing. And I thought about that for a long time because I felt pretty strongly that she was intuiting. She was psychically able to intuit what my fantasy was. And she was able to explain that in great detail. And this is a very valuable tool if you want to make money as a psychic, and or if you want to control other people, get things from other people. You have to be very adept at being able to read the other person, what it is that they want, what their fantasies are. This is very important because that's how you keep them on the hook. This is what religion does. This is what cults do. And cult leaders are brilliant at this. And so they're able to tap into your unconscious fantasies and to then, put that in front of you and keep you, pulled into them, keep you attached to them. So this is how the lower self works. The lower self is integral to this. All right. So that's how false information comes. And I can give you even more and more examples of this. There have been well-meaning people who are no longer my students, who were my students for a while. There was more than one, who felt that they were giving me messages from my past, my fiance who passed, and I was going through a lot of pain. And they were giving me messages from her, and some of them were very accurate in terms of what I wanted to hear. And I was really, I was being a teacher, so I really was working hard to stay neutral. Like I wasn't going to judge them one way or the other. Maybe this is coming from Lisa, maybe it's not. Maybe it, this might tell me something about this individual and, their issues and how I can best help them as a teacher. So it took a lot of effort for me not to just dive into wanting to hear what I was being told. But it gave me the ability to stand back and to listen, and some of the things that, I won't get into the specifics, but some of the things that were said, some of them were just outright completely wrong. There was just no connection to reality at all. The other stuff was, one person in particular was doing, either consciously or unconsciously, doing a very good job of picking up and remembering everything that I say in my videos. It's almost as if she was taking notes. And I don't think she was. I don't think that she was consciously taking notes. But, inside her subconscious, she was remembering all of these details that I told, that I shared about her. And, I had shown pictures of her. And so she was able to very perfectly do that. And I was like, wow. And then I stopped and I went, hang on. Everything that she said is something that I've said on one of my videos. So that doesn't mean that it wasn't psychic. I just had to put it on the side to say that doesn't prove to me anything. Let's just still keep an open mind. And then the information that she shared that didn't correspond with anything I'd shared was absolutely 100% just off. And so I had to assume, even as much as I wanted to, and this is really important. Like when you watch the psychics on, who I forget the names of these guys who have their shows. When you watch these people, is there somebody out there with the name whose grandfather died? I mean, you got a room full of people. Eventually my grandfather died. Yes, his name was Peter. Yeah, the pa sound, Peter. And people want so badly, and I know because I've been there. Oh my God, I know. You want so badly to hear from your loved one that's passed on that, you will filter out the 80% of it that's false, or what some of them do is they correct them. So he was bald, right? No, he wasn't bald. He was kind of balding. Yeah, that's right. He was balding a little bit, and he had red hair. Now he had blonde hair. That's right, blonde hair. They will feed the psychic information to help them create it, and then they'll go, oh my God, that's so accurate. And it isn't until afterwards, like if you film it, this is a good thing to do, is to film it and then watch and find out how much of it was accurate and how much of it wasn't. But besides the people who, the obvious con artists who will read somebody who don't have any psychic information, and then there's those that do have a powerful lower self that is able to tap into your lower self. Now this is important because this is technically a psychic experience where somebody's lower self taps into your lower self and they can intuit things about you from a psychic perspective, but it doesn't mean that they're giving you any truth. And here's the last pitfall when it comes to psychic experiences. The last pitfall is, since, remember what we're talking about, it's the lower self where all of this stuff is happening, whether it's coming from the gods, from the higher self to the lower self, or whether it's coming from two lower selves communicating with each other, which, by the way, is what sex is all about, in case you didn't know. Sex is about two lower selves, two unconscious minds merging. If the sex is really good, it means that you guys are connecting on the unconscious level. Now, if both of you have all kinds of unresolved emotional garbage in your unconscious, the sex is going to be great, and then the relationship is going to be really fucking crazy. This is, if you want to know what a twin flame is, this is the twin flame scenario, where on an unconscious level you're connecting because you both have the same wounds. And then on the conscious level, you're tearing each other apart because you stimulate each other on an unconscious level and you don't have the tools to work through it. And then you have this experience because you are connecting on a spiritual level. You're connecting on an unconscious level. And so you say, yes, it's my twin flame and we have this karmic connection and, we belong together. No, it's just that you're addicted to your craziness and you can't separate it. So this is what's happening during sex, is that the unconscious minds are coming together, and if the sex is good, it means you're connecting well on an unconscious level. And that's another reason why in marriages, by the way, once people get married and they're married for a while, the sex either gets really bad or falls apart, or somebody may have sexual dysfunction. It's because you're no longer able to sustain the marriage by connecting on your wounds. And that's what's happening, is that, on an unconscious level, that isn't working anymore. And so this is when people go to couples therapy and they start to learn about real intimacy. And then if they work through that, then they'll say, oh yeah, we had this rough period, but now it's better than ever and the sex is better. It means that they've resolved, which is what relationships are all about. It's about resolving unresolved issues. It's not about having somebody meet your needs. Sorry, you can get your needs met, but that's not why you do it. You do it to resolve your childhood issues and your karmic issues. And if you're able to start resolving them, and if both parties are able to start to evolve, then you reconnect again on an unconscious level at a higher vibration, and then it's everybody's happy. So let's see. I've kind of confused myself here. Let me take a look at my notes and see if there's anything else I want to say before we go any further. So I think I've talked about pretty much everything I wanted to say. The last thing I was going to say, and here's the biggest pitfall. When it comes to psychic information that is not accurate and is downright sometimes destructive or distracting, it's that the psychic can't tell the difference between their own unconscious projection and what is coming to them and being given to their lower self. Because what they're doing is they're tapping into their lower self. And so when they tap into their own projection and they project it onto somebody else, it feels to them exactly the same as when somebody is receiving information from their higher self and their higher self is giving it to the lower self. Because it's the lower self that is the repository of that information and then sends it up to the conscious self. And I'll give you another example. This was somebody that's no longer working with me that was wanting to give me these psychic messages from my partner who had passed. And she was telling me that Lisa was telling her that Lisa was going to send to me a friend. It was a kind way of a fuck buddy. That wasn't going to be anything more than a friend, but we would be there and hang out and enjoy each other's company, and it was just something to tide you over while you were working through it. And boy, that sounded like a great idea. I loved that idea. I wasn't in any emotional state to be in a committed relationship, but boy, having a fuck buddy and somebody to hang out with and walk the beat, that sounded like a great idea to me. But because she was my student, I understand that I have to be objective and to sit back and to watch. So I listened to it and I said, that's interesting. And then she gave me a time frame. That time frame came and went. That person never showed up. And that was a long time ago. That person, that fuck buddy still hasn't shown up. It turns out later, as I was talking with her about her issues months down the road, she went through a period where she had this, her desire was to have that, to have a friend that she wasn't, super committed to, that she could have sex with, blah, blah, blah. And I went, now I get it. She was projecting onto me. Now, I'm sure in the moment, she felt as though she was having a psychic experience and she was sharing it with me, but it wasn't about me, it was about her. It was her projection of what she wanted. And this is the biggest pitfall for psychic predictions. Very often, psychic predictions, people are projecting from their unconscious in their lower self, because remember, it feels the same. It's coming from the same place. They are projecting their own stuff onto whoever they're giving readings for. And that's the biggest problem. And so the biggest hurdle for any true psychic is to be able to work through their unresolved unconscious issues so that they don't project it onto their client. Now, this is another reason why it's extremely important, if you are somebody and you believe you have a psychic ability, even if you just have the ability to be a counselor, doesn't matter. If you have this ability, it's important you have to charge. You have to charge money. So let me explain to you why that is. By the way, our ancestors did this. When the vulva would come into the village to do, her her work and to channel the gods and do predictions, people had to pay them. It was part of the culture. So this idea that having a spiritual gift, you should give it away for free, that is one of the most destructive things you can do. Unless you truly are doing it, out of a karmic need to volunteer and give something for free. But most people don't. Most people do it. You see, here's the thing. When you work with people, whether it's spiritually or otherwise, there has to be an exchange of energy. If you are not receiving something in exchange for what you're giving them, there is only one other place that you can take energy from them, and that is on the emotional level. And I don't care who you are. If you think that you don't need that, you are in denial. Everybody needs the back and forth. So if you're not getting something physically, getting a gift of some kind in exchange for your whatever it is that you do, you build houses or you give psychic readings, then the only thing left is that you are going to require some kind of emotional payback. And that's when things can get destructive. This is what cults are all about. This is why cult leaders, in the beginning, oh my God, he just does everything for free and he doesn't want any money. But later on, it's going to come out of your ass, sometimes literally, because on an emotional level, he wants love. I'm thinking of a guy, I know of a guy, very powerful man who had a mixture of all kinds of stuff, and some of his powers were real. He worked very hard to get them. But he portrayed himself as this bodhisattva, and he started creating a cult around him. And it was because he didn't get enough love as a kid, and he wanted people to love him. It was incredibly destructive. So a true teacher has to be objective, and a true teacher, understands that they're human and says, yes, I'm happy to give this for you, but you must give me something. Like that, a good example is when you see in the movies where, somebody is talking to a lawyer and the lawyer says, give me $1, because they have some advice. And so the person pulls out $1 and gives it to him and says, okay, now that you've given me this $1, you're my client and there's attorney-client privilege, and now I can tell you this. That is the perfect example of what happens when you do any kind of work and you get paid for it. If you get paid for it, you're protected. The gods protect you, and they protect your client, and they protect your client from your emotional needs. You're getting your needs met by whatever the gift is, whatever the money is, whatever the exchange is, a blanket, tobacco, it doesn't matter. As long as there's an exchange, your needs are now met, and now all the bugs are cleared off of your windshield, and now the gods can work through you, because that's all that's happening. And so if you are a person with psychic abilities, you have to charge for that. And people have to ask you. You can't walk up to people. This was another thing that was happening with, one of these individuals I was talking about. They were volunteering information to me, calling me on the phone saying, I got a message for you from so-and-so. And that is the sign that something's wrong. Because if you feel the need, the universe doesn't work like this. What will happen is people have to ask. That's the rule. Teachers cannot teach unless the student asks, which is why in all of these things I ask you to ask me a question. And also why if I go, that's not a question, I won't answer you because you're not asking me. You have to ask. So I can't just drive up on you and tell you what you need to know. That's destructive. It's called unsolicited advice, and it's abusive. Okay? So if you're one of those people and you're constantly going and wanting to tell something and the Spirit of the Lord wants you to know, or this and that, it's because you have an emotional agenda. And the need to tell somebody where they need to get, that's your emotional agenda. And that's okay. I'll shut up with this and we'll take a break, but I was saying this last night with somebody, you remember, somebody was asking me about, why are you running away? And I started saying, this is your projection onto me. And they really needed to. And it's somebody that said to me, they might have even emailed me. Somebody's emailed me trying to talk me out of leaving. Why are you leaving the United States? What are you running away from? And it's like, man, this is your issue. I haven't, and I had to say, last night I had to say, I haven't asked you for your opinion. So don't volunteer it. This is your issue. I don't need to hear from you. I have people that I go to and I ask, and I have asked my teacher, what do you think of this? This is what I want to do. I have people I ask information from. I had a point and I sort of forgot it. Any case, we're going to talk about runes and how the runes work. And I'm going to tell you what I think the difference is between runic divination as opposed to psychic, without any tools, psychic, real psychic work is. So let's take a short break and then I'll be back. Excuse me. I will be back in a couple of minutes. Alrighty, welcome back. Okay, so is that what I want? I think I want this one instead. Okay. All right, so I'm going to take a look at some questions. So I do need to make my little spiel, my little announcement. It looks like there's at least 2 people who are new to the channel and new to the Q&As. So welcome. You're very welcome here. Here's how I would like to do these question and answer videos. If you have a question for me, please write the word question and then state your well thought out, well formulated question so that I can understand it. What I don't want is I don't want your comments. The reason for that is because I have to scroll through all of the comments to find the questions. And like last night, I missed people's questions because I'm scrolling through all of the comments. So sometimes, listen, I don't need a cheering section. I don't need for you to put your opinion there or agree with me or disagree with me. This is a question and answer, and that's how I'd like to do it. So if you're new and you're not familiar with that, that's how I would like for you to interact with me. And of course, if people come on here and they're a pain in the rear end, I just mute them. So if you don't want to get muted, that's how to do it. Anyway, yeah, so let's get to the questions. So, first question, Jedi Black Knight question. Is there a correlation between the three selves and the Ishta Devata, Dharma Devata, and Palana Devata? If you see at the top here, it says astrology. Oh, that's not what I'm looking for. You want this one. So you see here at the bottom, astrology.thunderwizard.com. So he's talking about the Vedic astrology that I do readings and I teach. He's asking about that. So the three selves, again, the upper, the middle, and the lower self, they each have their own function. He's asking, do the three selves correlate with the Ishta Devata, Dharma Devata, and Palana Devata? Not exactly, but very close. The Ishta Devata represents the connection to the heart center. The heart center is your soul, your conscious mind. And so an Ishta Devata is a planet that wants to work with you on the conscious level. For me, it's Venus. So that means Venus deities, and there are very specific Venus deities. Venus deities are deities that I can speak to. I wake up in the morning and I say, let's say, for example, Freja. Freja is a Venus deity. I can talk to Mother Freja and say, Freja, help me today. I need this. Help me find a parking space. This is your best friend, somebody that you can share things with. So if you need to talk to somebody, you talk to your Ishta Devata. Your Ishta Devata is, like I said, a planet and the deities associated with that planet. And it's like they're waiting for you to text them. Most deities and most planets, you have to work to get their blessing. You have to do rituals in order to activate what they do, and I'll explain that in a second. So your Ishta Devata would be your middle self. The Dharma Devata is clearly the unconscious mind. Because your path, your true path, is hidden in your unconscious mind. This is, we come here for a very simple purpose. Life does not have to be complicated. It might not be easy all the time, but it is not complicated. Which is why when I talk to people and they go, it's complicated, I say, no, it's not. It's never complicated. It might be difficult, but it's not complicated. We come here for one purpose and one purpose only, to fulfill our greatest joy. And that joy is programmed into your soul. That is your true dharma, your destiny, your orlog, your path. Is what it is that gives you the greatest joy in your life. Now, connected with that is how you learn is that when you go after your greatest joy, you must then overcome all of the challenges that are also in your unconscious mind. So your unconscious mind is, full of all kinds of pitfalls. It's your own garbage. But when you go after what your soul wants, you will have to look at all of your fears, all of your narcissism, all of your karmic issues, and you will have to overcome them. You will have to become conscious. You will have to become mature. And as you become mature, then the brightness of the joy of your soul becomes brighter and brighter, and it's like a spotlight that, a lighthouse that guides you towards the shore of your fulfillment. So this is the Dharma Devata. It wants to go into the unconscious mind. The Palana Devata is the subconscious mind. The majority of the time, almost 99% of people who, when they use the word subconscious, they mean unconscious. But the subconscious mind is in between the conscious and the unconscious. The conscious is right now what you're conscious of. The unconscious is what you are not conscious of. So if somebody has unconscious resolved anger, they will look you in the face and say, I'm not angry. But you'll feel all this anger coming out of them. They'll be totally clueless. It's unconscious. Subconscious is in between the two. Your subconscious mind in regular workings is your phone number, your social security number, your driver's license, your birthday, the anniversary of your marriage. You don't think about it. You're not thinking about it right now, but if I say to you, what's your birthday? Boom, you have it. It's right there. It's in your unconscious mind. It's like a file. in the subconscious mind. It's like a file cabinet. But the subconscious mind, from a shamanic perspective, is your ability to intend. Through your third eye, your subconscious mind intends your reality. So you create your reality through the muscle of the subconscious. This is the Palana Devata. So no, the three Ishta, Dharma, and Palana Devatas do not correspond exactly with the three selves. They correspond with the middle and the two aspects of the lower self. All right, Ilana Mills, welcome. Please ask a question. I only respond to questions. Jedi Black Knight, question. Does the Heaven Earth meditation, qigong.thunderwizard.com, he's talking about the energy work that I teach. The Heaven Earth meditation does the Heaven Earth meditation connect the higher self to the lower self, given the obvious flow of qi in that direction? Yes, it does. It connects all three selves. It is an all-purpose meditation practice. There are a handful of practices that I teach that if you just focused on any one of them for the rest of your life, they would give you everything. They'd give you enlightenment, they'd give you health, they'd give you consciousness, they'd give you life force energy, they balance everything. The Heaven Earth meditation is one. If you're like, I don't know what to do, just do that one for the rest of your life. If you do it for a half an hour a day, if you do it for an hour a day, after 10 years of doing that for an hour a day, if you're not this bright, shiny being that walks in and everybody goes, oh, then something's wrong. It's one of those things, there's a few of them that I teach. That's one of them. Let's see here. Himanshu Thakar, question. If there is a goal which I pursued and have failed for the last 5 years continuously, and that too very miserably, can that be my sole purpose or my disillusion? Well, I would have to talk to you. Because as I said earlier, your soul desire, which is the thing that brought you into manifestation, your soul desire is what gives you the greatest joy. And people who have difficulty, when I ask them, and I take them through a series of questions and I say, what is it that you're doing that gives you the greatest joy? If they say, I don't know, it means they're in conflict. The truth is that they do know. They know on a very deep, unconscious level, they know what it is. But somewhere along the line in their life, they were given the message that you're not allowed to do that. You're a bad person if you become a ballerina. You need to go and become a physicist or whatever. That's the conflict. So on an unconscious level, you can't tell the difference between wanting to please your parents and wanting to please your soul. And when we please our soul, if we have dysfunction in our life, we have to go through the experience of feeling like we're killing our parents. That's why it's so, for some people, some people will find out and they'll know exactly what it is. And then I say, okay, now you got to go do that. Then they fall apart because the fear is so overwhelming. And that fear is oftentimes on an unconscious level, they don't consciously know why they're afraid of it. On an unconscious level, they're afraid they're going to kill their parents. Even if your parents are already dead, the unconscious mind doesn't know that. So when I hear you say that you've been going after a goal and have failed, I don't know what that is. Are you trying to become rich? Are you trying to become a rock star? Are you trying, I don't know what it is. It could be your soul desire and you have conflict and you're not able to resolve the unconscious conflict and so you keep failing. I did that for years. It could be that you think you know what your soul desire is, but like a lot of people who practice the secret, which is only half of the truth, people sit around and they go, I want $1 million and I want a big house and I want 5 cars and I want a supermodel wife. Well, they don't really want those things. They think if they have those things, they'll be safe. This is, and again, people tell me this all the time. Well, if I can make the money, then I'll have the money to be able to do my soul desire. So it doesn't work like that. You're either doing your soul desire or you're not. And sometimes you have to give up everything to do your soul desire. And you're afraid you're not going to get what you need. But if you go after your soul desire, the universe has a mandate to make sure you have everything that you need. You might not have the mansion and the 5 cars and the supermodel wife, but you will have everything that you need to have your greatest happiness. That's how it works. So I would need to talk to you to be able to know whether or not this is your soul desire or whether or not you're in conflict with yourself and you can't tell the difference. Anybody who wants a private session with me, go to career.thunderwizard.com. And be sure that you understand there's a difference between a career consultation and an astrological reading. A lot of people want me to give them both. They'll buy one or the other, and then they'll say, yeah, I want you to look at my chart and tell me what my soul desire is. And I'm like, no, you got to pick one. Which one do you want? You want the reading or do you want the soul desire reading? So if you go to career.thunderwizard.com and just tell me I want you to help me find out what my soul desire is, I can usually help you within an hour. Sometimes, I had one career consultation this week and it only took a half an hour. In a half hour we were able to figure it out. There was nothing more to talk about. Okay. All right. So again, I'm seeing here, this was a while ago, people typing out comments. Just questions only, please. Black Earth Productions question. Being psychic myself and not always liking it, going deeper and mastering this with myself lately. What would you say from your perspective is the best way to protect your psychic field? That is a really good question. I was working with somebody this week, and we were talking about a very similar, you'll see what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about you in particular, Black Earth Productions, Sethicus. By the way, Black Earth Productions has his own channel. Go check it out. Excellent channel. He's got his own website, blackearthproductions.com. He's definitely go check him out. So I was talking with one of my apprentices, and he was sharing with me. I won't get into the specifics because it's his personal life. I won't get into it, but he was intuiting and psychically able to know when somebody was doing a certain thing or thinking a certain thing. And he knew that this person was in a specific area doing a specific thing. And sure enough, he was 100% right every time. And it was driving him crazy. And I said to him, you do have a psychic ability, but this is not a psychic gift you are experiencing. Your ability is because when you were a kid, because of the dysfunction that you had, and if you grew up in a dysfunctional home, many of us do, many people with psychic abilities, the reason they have psychic abilities is they grew up in dysfunctional homes. When you grow up in a dysfunctional home, there is always the risk that your angry alcoholic mother or father or abusive, whatever, you never know when they're going to go off on you. And you never know when something is going to go wrong. So little kids at the age of 3 and 4 start to develop these psychic abilities because they need to predict ahead of time what mom and dad or what brother and sister is going to do so that they can protect themselves. And they become excellent at reading people. This is why con men are so good at reading you, because they probably grew up in very dysfunctional homes and they had to learn really quickly what you were thinking and what you were feeling so that they could avoid, getting smacked on the head or whatever it was. So when this happens and you grow into an adult, you have this power. Sometimes it's a psychic ability. You know what somebody's thinking. You can feel what they're feeling. But it's coming from, wanting to protect yourself. This is, again, why if you have a psychic ability, you need to charge people money. Because when you charge people money, then you're not doing it for any personal agenda. When you're in a relationship with somebody, for example, like I was married to a woman who was not very spiritual, but boy, was she psychic. And I'm not saying this in a good way. I mean, if we were sitting there and we were, whatever, or if she was at work and I was thinking about an ex-girlfriend, the phone would ring. You're thinking about another woman right now, aren't you? It's like, well, yeah, I think about a lot of things all the time. So what? But I mean, it just became crazy because she was so insecure. I would say, get the hell out of my head. Get out of my head. Because she was so insecure. But that was her gift because she grew up in a really dysfunctional home. And so in order to protect yourself, and I don't know your specifics, Sethicus, but if what I'm saying applies to you as well, then this is just about doing, self work, working the 12 steps, working with a counselor, doing any kind of spiritual work which empowers your boundaries. Because what this means is that, dysfunctional homes are about a lack of boundaries. And so, in healthy homes, people develop boundaries and you learn to not, everybody has the ability. Here's the thing. Everybody knows everything about everybody on an unconscious level. You know everything about me and I know everything about you. Well, what we consciously experience, that's a whole other deal. So we're talking about people who have torn away that layer between the conscious and the unconscious, and they don't have good boundaries. So the way to protect yourself is to get stronger emotional and psychological boundaries. That's really the only way. And interestingly enough, one of the ways you do that is you use your gift and you charge people money. Because when you charge people money, somebody gives you $100 for an hour, you don't have an emotional agenda. You don't know them, you don't care about them, your needs have been taken care of, and now you can let your gift do its work and the gods can work through you and everybody is healed. But if you're doing this kind of work and you're not getting paid for it, then there's no way for you not to become emotionally having an agenda with that person. It's impossible. So that's one way. If you have that ability, I would say start doing psychic readings and start charging people money. Because then what happens is when you get that, it's like going to the gym and you lift weights and you don't, you're tired. You don't want to do it anymore. When you're off the clock, you don't want to get into other people's minds or, you have this ability to wall off all of that. Okay? So I hope I answered your question. Again, I don't know enough about your personal situation, but if my other experiences are like that, then hopefully that's been helpful for you. All right. So again, yeah, I won't say it again. No, these are old comments. Let's see. I'm scrolling through to find the questions here. Exchange goods and services or accept donations. I have nothing against accepting donations except for the fact that accepting donations doesn't mean anything if somebody doesn't donate. So here's the thing. We live in a very codependent society, especially when it comes to spirituality. And this whole New Age idea that spiritual teachers and spiritual practitioners shouldn't charge is absolutely 100% turned on its head false. It is extremely destructive not to charge people for your service. Now, if you're going and you're giving meals to the homeless and you're doing some kind of volunteer work, that's your own karmic issue. That's different. But accepting donations, I know it sounds really cool, but you've got to put some boundaries there because you are harming other people. If somebody's coming to you for spiritual work and you are not getting an exchange of energy from them, you're harming them. This is important to understand because it's impossible to do work for somebody without having an emotional agenda. Unless they pay you, unless they give you a blanket, tobacco, $5. It has to be an exchange of energy. And the easiest way to do that, we're talking about boundaries. Look, I know this from personal experience. I know this because I've been working with people for 20 years who do this. It hasn't changed. There isn't one person that I've worked with who's sort of, sliding scale and I'll take this and who isn't resentful about it. Look, you go to your dentist, he's not going to put a filling in for free unless he's doing it out of the goodness for his heart for the poor. You walk into his office, he's going to charge you X amount of money. You got a plumber come in, he's going to do it for X amount of money. You need to have X amount of money that you charge. I don't recommend taking donations. I think that's codependent. And you're denying your own needs. And it is your responsibility to the universe to acknowledge your own needs. And again, the most important thing is when people want to ask me, why do you charge this? I say, to protect you. And they look at me like, what do you mean? How does this protect me? Because when you pay me, and you pay me an amount that I'm comfortable with, I have no agenda on you. And now the universe can work through me. But if I don't take what I require for my time, then I am going to want something more from you. And then resentment is going to creep in, or desire. There's a lot like, I'll shut up about this in a second, but people who have a need for spiritual teachers to work for free. And there are some people that they will just go nuts about this. They get so bent out of shape that why do you charge? People will say, on some of my, advertisements for astrology readings, you should be doing this for free. Really? So all of the hours that I spent studying, all of the hundreds of dollars that I spent on other astrologers to teach me, all the money I've spent on books, all of the time I've spent practicing this, I should do this for free? For you? Why? What is so special about you that you should have this for free when I have to work my ass off and pay a bunch of money to learn this? How does that, what is that about that? I'll tell you what that comes from. Anybody who wants to have a teacher to, quote, be their friend, I've had this as well. Well, I pay you in my friendship. Really? I mean, I'm your teacher and your friend. I'm paying double, and I'm only getting friendship from you? How is that equal? People who are like that are people who didn't get love from mom and dad, because teachers and spiritual practitioners represent unconsciously mom and dad. And so if they're demanding that teachers give them things for free, what they're really saying is, mom and dad didn't love me, and I want you to be my mom or my dad right now. And the mother, sometimes the father, but the mother is the only being in the universe that will give to their child unconditionally. It's the only relationship in the universe where you have that. The mother-child relationship, the mother gives unconditionally, requires nothing from the child. As an adult, it is immature of you. And if you're doing that, it means you're projecting onto them, transferring. You're actually transferring onto them all of your unresolved daddy and mommy issues onto your teacher. And if a teacher lets you do that, that teacher is very likely to abuse you. Then you'll find a teacher who wants to get sexually involved with their students. And that's incredibly destructive. So I do not recommend taking donations. There are some exceptions to that rule. If you're starting out, you need to practice, do it, take donations. But I say right from the get-go, charge people money. And the reason for that is that you'll be under pressure, you'll be at your best, and they will get something. Because here's the last thing I'll say about this. The student must sacrifice. This is between them and the gods, not them and you. But in order for the gods to give them power, they have to sacrifice something to the gods. Their sacrifice is when it hurts, when they're pulling out that money and it hurts as they're handing it to the teacher. That is their sacrifice to the gods. And you know what? They will take, if I charge somebody $5 for an hour of teaching and meditation, there's a good chance I'm going to get a phone call a month from now going, how did that meditation go again? Because it didn't cost them anything. So they don't learn. But if I charge somebody $5,000, I say, I'll teach you for an hour, I'll teach you a high-level meditation for $5,000, you can be damn sure that person will be taking notes, they'll be filming it, and they will get everything out of that because it's costing them so much money. They will learn. So if you're going to be a spiritual practitioner, you owe it to your clients to charge them. If you don't charge them, You are taking away from them their required sacrifice to the gods. This is what Jesus did. This is why people do this. Christianity introduced this. Jesus said, don't worry, human beings, you stupid, fucked up pieces of shit pussies. I will take on your sins for you. I will make the sacrifice for you, you fucking losers. You don't realize Jesus is talking down to you every time he says, I take on the sins of the world, because you're too much of an idiot and a pussy and a weakling to do it for yourself. Odin died to himself. He sacrificed himself to himself. As a result of that sacrifice, the runes, the mysteries of the universe were revealed to him. He would never take on your sacrifice for you. He'll tell you how to do it, how he did it. You can go do it. But he would never take it for you. Because he respects and loves you that much, he would never do that to you. So when you say to your students, just whatever you can afford, just donate, and these are people talking on their cell phones, right? And they've got money to pay for their cell phones. They got money to pay for the gas that got them there, but they don't have the $20 or the $50 to pay for your time. And you're going to let them in, and okay, sliding scale, this is love and peace. You are looking down at them. You are condescending to them. And you are taking away from them their required sacrifice, and they won't benefit from your gift. All right. I will get off my soapbox about that. All right, let's keep going. See if there's any more questions. Skyclad Faye. Question. Is it important to know the lores before starting the runes? No. N.A. Question. When seeing into the underworld and seeing spirits there, is there any danger they can hurt you? Because often they are angry and I'm quite new to it all. Well, if you feel that way, then I don't recommend going to the underworld. Look, I said this yesterday. Shamanism, if we're talking about traveling to the different worlds, and driving down the street to McDonald's, there is no difference in spirituality. Your spiritual level is the same, whether you're going to the underworld or going to the toilet. Whether you're in your conscious mind or whether you are on the astral plane. It makes no difference. You are spiritual in both realms. If you are going to the underworld because you want to be a shaman because you think that makes you more spiritual, I'm here to tell you it doesn't do anything for you. If you are called to be a shaman, you will go to the underworld. You'll learn all that stuff. So let me just say that from the outset. Let's just demystify all of it. Now, if you're going to the underworld and you're not prepared, and you're afraid that you're going to be harmed, then I don't recommend doing it. Having said that, the underworld is your own unconscious. And in your own unconscious, your unconscious issues can cause you harm if you let them out unconsciously. If you act on them unconsciously, they can cause you and other people harm. So yes, that is mirrored in your experience in the underworld. They can be destructive and hurtful, but only if you are unconscious. If you are working through your awareness and becoming aware, then the unconscious mind is a place that you can go and you can say, oh, wow, look, I'm angry. You see a demon running around in the underworld, that's you. That's an angry part of you. So the more work you do on yourself, the more you can go into the underworld and it's not so frightening. Okay, so I don't know if I answered your question or not, but continue to watch my videos. Anybody new here, binge watch my videos. Okay, go on to my channel, binge watch my videos, buy my books. Let me see, where can you buy my books? You can buy my books at the third one up, michaelwilliamdenny.com. I got tons of books out there. Buy those. Learn what it is that I teach, and you'll have a even more ability to ask questions that will make me want to help you. All right. A lot of new people, I can tell, because there's a lot of people throwing out their opinions, and I won't launch into that. But again, it's a problem because I have to scroll past all of you to get to the question. Nano Pepsi question. Is passive meditation also effective when it comes to improving your psychic senses? What do you mean by passive meditation? I'm not sure I know what you mean by that. Do you mean guided meditation, like you're listening to a tape? Somebody saying, you go to the beautiful field and there appears before you an elf, and the elf has blue hair. Does that help you? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But it really makes me want to ask you, why do you want to improve your psychic senses? But short answer is, it won't hurt. How's that? Sorry, I couldn't be more specific. It won't hurt. Let's see. Donna Marie B333 question. Is your Ishta Devata and Palana Devata planet, if your Ishta Devata and Palana Devata planet are the same, is it better to have one deity to focus the friendship relationship and a different one to focus the worship relationship? No. You can use the same one. I recommend using the same one. Why complicate things? It's like a 2-for-1. You got 2-for-1. You worship one, you can talk to the same one. It makes things easier for you. So, no, you can keep the same one. I recommend it. Harold Dale question. When doing the Celestial Qigong video, can I do the whole breath meditation in place of the seated meditations? Yeah. Anybody can go do the whole breath meditation right now. Go on to anywhere and type in HUUL breath. And you can start doing that today. That is another one. I said the Heaven Earth meditation is one that is an all-purpose meditation that'll do everything for you. The whole breath is the base meditation for this practice. So anybody who's following this channel and doing this should, if they haven't been doing the whole breath, they should be doing it every day, unless you're doing something else I've given you to do. Let's see. John Burnham question. Would you accredit the psychic energy exchange of charging your clients to the trust and boundaries of the self and whomever we are working with, like the Ehwaj rune and twins and Gemini? Okay, so there's a lot there. I'm not sure I understand it. So the shorter your questions, the better it is for me, because then I know what you're asking. So now I have to read it again. It's a lot. Would you accredit the psychic energy exchange of charging your clients to the trust and boundaries of the self and whomever we are working with? I'm not sure I understand the question. I mean, the best way for me to answer that is you charge money to your clients so that you can protect them from your own selfishness. Sounds ironic. But when you're giving away stuff for free, you are opening people up to your selfishness, and you may be harming them. When they give you money or a gift that you are comfortable with, then you no longer need anything from them, and now you are a clean slate to help them, and the gods will work through you because you're not getting in the way. You are charging them, you force them to pay you because they're a student, they don't know any better. So you have to take on the responsibility of knowing that they're not going to learn unless they sacrifice to the gods. So you become the face of the gods to them, and you say, if you want my help, it's going to cost you X amount of money per hour. And then you take their money, they've made their sacrifice, and their connection to the gods is, see, it's all about everybody being connected to the power of the gods. Money, exchange of energy, the gift is the way that that is done. You used a word here, accredit the psychic energy exchange. I want you to get rid of that psychic energy exchange, unless you're talking about what I just talked about. It's an energy exchange. Think of it as just an energy exchange. Okay, so I don't understand what you mean, like the Ehwaj rune and the twins in Gemini. I don't know what that means, so I can't answer that for you. So again, for those of you who are new, please refrain from adding your editorial comments. I don't need a cheerleading section. I know what I'm saying. I don't need for you to agree with me or to add or to edit. It takes away from my ability to answer people's questions. Okay. J. Smith 024 question: what is the best way to stay connected to your guides? Be a conscious person. Seek to be mature. Let me put it that way. Seek to be a psychologically and emotionally mature person. It's the most spiritual person in the world may not have any spirituality or religion if they are emotionally and psychologically mature. That's the most spiritual person on the planet. Let's see here. What is the best way to stay connected to your guides? Any tips on breaking through the veil during meditation? Why do you need to break through the veil during meditation? There's an assumption in your question that if you can break through and connect to your guides, you're somehow having a deeper spiritual experience. You don't know that. Remember that you're just as likely to tap into your own unconscious fantasies and fears and narcissism and think you're talking to your spiritual guide. Your spiritual guides know how to communicate to you. And if you're meant to have an experience with them, they will connect with you. Now, if you want to meditate and meditate to connect with them, you send out that invitation. But if you need to hear from them, then either another spirit is going to come along or your own unconscious selfishness, narcissism, fears are going to pop up and you're going to think you're talking to somebody when you're only talking to yourself. So your guides are perfectly capable of finding a way to connect with you, and if need be, they will. Trust. Just if you want to meditate, meditate, and you should meditate, because meditation helps you connect to your higher self. Meditation gives you the ability to take action regardless of your fears and your feelings. Meditation connects you energetically to the infinite force of the universe, which doesn't need to talk to you. It just gives you the information, Just learn to trust, and if something comes from it, great. I'm not trying to talk you out of seeking connection to your guides. I'm just saying that, if you're having trouble, relax. Just, trust them. They will give you what you need. Don't overdo it, and don't let your personal need for an experience get in the way, because you might end up, causing yourself more issues here. Who knows? Question. Regarding Jesus, I am trying to remove the indoctrination of Christianity that limits my abilities. Which God is Jesus borrowed, stolen from? Well, there's an assumption there as well. You're trying to replace Jesus. You don't need to do that. Jesus is an imposition. The whole thing about Jesus is an unnatural imposition. So unfortunately, the best way to do it is just to, maybe just analyze what he says without any of the religious dogma attached to it. Let's just take the idea of Jesus having to die for your sins. In order to accept the whole idea of Jesus, you have to accept the assumption, the base assumption that you are evil and that you are deserving of punishment. Once you accept that, then Jesus makes sense, because somebody has to come and pay the price for you because you're a worthless piece of crap and you deserve to be destroyed. Now, if we get rid of that base assumption, if we start with a different assumption that we are the universe, that we are God, that we are consciousness, that we are God incarnate on this planet having a physical experience, then the whole idea of somebody coming along and having to take responsibility for all of our learning mistakes seems not only ridiculous but downright abusive. I mean, if God the Father, Jehovah, if a human being were to treat their children the way he treated Jesus, we would lock him up as an insane, murderous lunatic. But somehow it's okay for God to do it. Think about it. Jehovah creates. It's just so nuts. This is really what Jehovah is. By the way, Jehovah does exist. Jehovah is the human narcissistic ego. So whenever somebody worships Jehovah, they are worshiping their own narcissistic ego, which is why born-again Christians and hardcore Muslims and hardcore Jews are really, that hardcore Abrahamic mindset is extremely exclusive, racist, sexist. There's no compassion there. It's because you're worshiping the narcissistic ego. So when Jehovah says, I made man in my own image, he's telling the truth. He meant the human ego is made in his image. It's actually the other way around, but you're projecting your own ego and worshiping it. So when you think about that, you can dismantle it and realize how crazy it is. I think that's the best way to go. Now, I could be wrong, but I don't think trying to replace Jesus with another God is going to work through it. I think you need to look at that and acknowledge you are valuable. Whenever you think about Jesus saving you or God the Father hating, I didn't get through all the craziness. God creates man in his own image and then realizes that he fucked up. But instead of taking responsibility, he blames his creation. You're sinful. If he's all powerful, how is it that he can't make a perfect being? He makes human beings, and they apparently defy him by wanting to figure things out for themselves, and he hates them for that and banishes them. He doesn't just punish them. He banishes them from his sight and is going to not destroy them, but punish them eternally. This is the sign of an abuser. This is what an abuser does. They just continually abuse you for the same mistake. They don't know how to forgive. So he does that, and then he decides, okay, I'm going to save him, so I'm going to take my son, who is perfect, who is somehow him too, but not him, and is his son, but is still him. He's going to take his perfect son, who's innocent as a lamb, who's done nothing wrong. He's going to force him to become a human being. He's going to have him be tortured and killed. And then, as if that's not bad enough, he's going to take all of his unquenchable infinite rage that he has towards his own children, and he's going to focus it on the child who hasn't done anything wrong. It's nuts. It's just crazy. When you look at that, you can let go of it. And then you have to, for me anyway, listen, I still have nightmares. It doesn't happen very often, but I'll still have nightmares while I'll wake up screaming, in Jesus' name, Satan, because I think I'm casting out demons in my sleep. It's still in there. So it's going to be a long time before you're able to get this crap out of your head. But for me, the best way to do it is just to analyze it and realize how sick and fucked up it is. And then that helps me. So maybe that's helpful for you as well. Adam Shannon, question, is self-discipline important to our spiritual lives? Yes. How important? Very important. I don't know what else to say. Yes, it's extremely important. Spiritual practice is the way to do it. I don't know what you mean. You might mean something else than I do by self-discipline. So go onto my channel and start doing some of the meditations and 40-day disciplines and all that kind of stuff. That's the best way to use your discipline, is in spiritual practice. Consistent spiritual practice every day, meaning spiritual meditation, energy work, mantra, ritual, something specific. If you want one, you can go to astrology.thunderwizard.com. If you don't have your own mantra and ritual that you can do every day, go there and I will give you one. I won't give you one. I will give you one in exchange for you buying my services. How's that? Sunshine and Sophia, question, what are, quote, better questions to make me want to help you? A lot of people come on to my Q&As because this is the way YouTube works, where you're on it. YouTube says live, so you go on to watch me. You don't know anything. I'm not talking about you personally, but somebody may not know anything about what I teach. They see the title and they want to talk, so they start just throwing out questions that have nothing to do with me, or they want to ask me about some other teacher or something like that. The way to learn how to get questions that are going to make me really want to help you is if you actually spend time reading my books, michaelwilliamdenny.com, watching my videos, binge watching my videos, doing the practices that I teach. Then you will have questions associated with what I teach, because I'm excited about what I teach. I'm not excited about what other people teach or excited about other stuff. That's why some people ask me questions and I dismiss them, because I'm not excited about it. And it feels disrespectful, because it's like you don't know me at all and you're throwing out some question that has nothing to do with anything that I teach. And so it's like, I don't want to talk about that. I'm really excited about the three selves. I'm really excited about how that works. And you asked me a question about, because, my selfishness, that connects me to something I'm personally connected to. I'm going to want to talk about it. So the short answer is spend time watching my channel, binge watching my videos. I was doing some research today, and sometimes I'll go on my channel to see which videos are the most popular. And I've got some videos on there, especially some rune teachings, that have almost no views, which tells me that people aren't putting the effort in to watch my channel. They're letting YouTube make all the decisions for you. So if you have a desktop, I know a lot of people, again, this annoys me too. People want to watch it on their phone, or they watch it on their iPad. And it annoys me because it makes you passive and it makes you lazy. And that annoys me. It's hard to really learn something spiritual if you're passive and lazy. But that's the way technology is, and that's how YouTube makes its money. The lazier you are, the more choices it can make for you. But if you have a desktop, you can go onto somebody's channel page and you can either type in the top bar to search all of YouTube, or if you go down, like where it says thunderwizard.com, there will be a little magnifying glass. If you click on that, then you can put in a search term and search only in my channel. I recommend that you do that. You want to learn about runes, type in runes. You want to learn about the matrix, type in the matrix. You want to learn about the three selves, type in the three selves. Go onto my channel, look at what my playlists are, watch those. You do that, you put some time and effort into that, and you come on with a question that I can tell is educated on what I teach. I'm going to feel empowered. Wow, this person took the time to watch my videos and they have a question. I'm going to want to help you. Does that answer your question? Cosmo Joe, giant blue question mark. When engaged in Qigong and one experiences energetic pressure build up in one's centers, is it beneficial to hold that pressure? Does it build capacity? Or should one go directly into microcosmic circulation? Why do you need to do either of those? You have an assumption. If you're feeling pressure, that's not necessarily a good sign. It means that things are clamped down. If you're doing celestial qigong right, everything will flow. You want to release the energy. Don't hang on to it. Let it flow through you. We've talked about this before, you and I. Don't try and smash the energy in or compact it. Don't do any of that stuff. If you're feeling pressure, continue to breathe and relax and let it dissipate. If you're feeling pressure, it means that the meridians are, they're trying to expand. It could be like, when you have a garden hose and it's twisted up, there's a lot of pressure building up, but when you untwist it, all the energy comes out. That's where you want to go, especially for you, because the intellect condenses and contracts. When you overthink, that's when things get stuck. So don't overthink it. Nano Pepsi question, can you explain from your perspective a psychic attack and how to avoid it or bypass it? Go onto my channel and look for videos having to do with demon possession, because I talk about what demon possession is. A psychic attack simply means that you have unresolved emotional issues and you are attracting that. It also means that you have bad psychological boundaries. I used to be an exorcist, and then I trained in demon spirit fighting, where you fight demons with your bare hands using energy. It's the most powerful martial art there is. When you learn how to do that, you just tap a human being and they just disintegrate. So I'm familiar with this, is the point I'm trying to make. And there's no way that you can be attacked by anything, human or spirit, unless you yourself unconsciously invite it. So the way to avoid spiritual attack is to do the work, become psychologically mature, emotionally mature, spiritually mature. And when you do that, you won't attract any psychic attack from a person or from an entity. So, if you're having that issue, if you're having psychic attack issues, there's probably a good chance that you need counseling, even like from a regular counselor. It means that there's stuff that you're not addressing in your unconscious that needs to be addressed. That's what poverty is. That's what health issues are. That's what emotional issues are, relationship issues. They all represent some kind of unresolved state on the unconscious level. You deal with your unconscious stuff, your external world will fix itself, including you won't be attacked by people or spirits. If you want my help, you can get a private session with me and I can talk to you and I can help you more. Gremnor Thomas question, would you recommend doing both heaven and earth and whole breath meditation daily? Or if I were to choose one, which would you recommend? Take your pick. You can do both if you want. Either one will work. If I had to pick one, because the whole breath is in the heaven earth meditation. It's already built into it. If I had to pick just one, and there was a time when all I did was the heaven earth meditation, it would be the heaven earth meditation. Skyclad Faye question, I had a difficult situation recently where someone tried to lay their hands on me and pray for me without my permission after I told them I don't believe in God. Any suggestions? Yes. When they try to put their hands on you, you stop them and you say, stop. I haven't given you permission to touch me. And I haven't given you permission to pray for me. If you want to go home and pray for me on your own time, you go ahead and do it. I don't want your religion. It's a violation. It's just a violation. And it doesn't matter what their intentions are. I have no problem telling Christians I want nothing to do with them. None. And so, they're probably going to get all bent out of shape and, Satan has her so afraid that she couldn't even let me pray for her. Oh, Satan has her. So what? They're nuts. Just maybe say, no, thank you. I appreciate the gesture, but no, thank you. I have my own spirituality. That's what I say. When somebody wants to, whether it's a Jehovah's Witness or a Christian or whoever, and I go, hang on, let me stop you. Respectfully, I have my own religion. If I want to learn about yours, I will ask you. Thank you for offering. Goodbye. That's probably the kindest way to do it. Flying Sandcat question, could it be that what we are told about Jesus is the imposition and he is simply our brother, another ascended master? Have you ever studied the serpent seed doctrine? Number one, don't ask me about other teachings. It's disrespectful to me. It's disrespectful to other teachings because you're putting me in the position of potentially bad-mouthing another teacher. And you're new, so you don't know, but don't do that here. You want to ask me about what I teach, I will tell you. You're not really asking me this question. You're not honestly asking me about Jesus. You have an emotional agenda connected to Jesus, which I understand, and you're wanting me to co-sign it for you. So what I want you to do is to go onto my channel and type in, again, get onto a desktop and type in the word Jesus on my channel. And you'll find one that says something along the lines of, did Jesus really exist? And I go into detail about how we know for a fact that this is a made-up person. He did not exist. Jesus never existed. Now, there is a being out there that responds to people's prayers when they pray to Jesus, but it is a thought form. There was a guy I knew, this was years ago, and this was a guy I was teaching martial arts to, and he was talking about Merlin the magician, and he said, I tapped into Merlin the magician, and Merlin the magician told me that he was a thought form, and the only reason he exists is that people projected him out into the universe, and so he existed. But that being was saying, I really don't exist, I'm only other people's projection. There's a Jesus out there, he's other people's projections. In terms of the physical man who walked on the planet, he never existed. He was made up by people who eventually then used that made up being to manipulate you, control you, demean you, and disempower you. So to answer your question, is Jesus simply our brother, another ascended master? No, he is not. He is a toxic, extremely toxic thought form, and very insidious, because he gets into you with all the thing, and I love you, you stupid piece of shit. I'm dying for you. I give you God's grace, you worthless pile of crap. You don't know that, but that's what's happening. So no, flying sandcat. I'm sorry if you have a connection to him and I'm upsetting you or pissing you off or frightening you. If you're asking me, and I wouldn't walk up on the street and tell you this if you were walking around with a Bible, it's none of my business, but if you're asking me, I'm going to tell you, drop the Jesus lie as fast as you can. Ghost in the Machine question, what did Lilith, I don't know, people keep asking me about Lilith. What did Lilith really do to reject Adam? I don't even know what the hell that means. I don't know what that means. I can't answer that. John Burnham question. You're not the first person to ask me about Lilith. I don't know why people are doing that. I don't teach that shit. So I don't know what it is. John Burnham question. When it comes to engaging each other on this plane, all caps, YouTube. When it comes to engaging each other on this plane, YouTube, how does a teacher become more aware of their own ego and defense against engaging with those who have not purchased a product? I don't know. Why are you asking me this? Where is this coming from? Are you asking me because you're a YouTube teacher and you want to protect yourself? Or is this a way for you to try and get me to look at myself to see if my ego is getting in the way? I don't know what this question is. If you want to ask me a question, you've got to ask me a question from an honest place. An honest place is you have an emotional need to get something fixed within you. So when you talk in the third person, I don't know if you're talking about yourself or if you're passive-aggressively talking about somebody else or talking about me. So what is it you're trying to ask me? See if you can reform that question. And if you're not asking for yourself, don't waste my time or yours. If you have an opinion about me or somebody else, I don't care. Keep that to yourself. Okay? Ask me in a way that I can help you. So I need you to rephrase that question from a more honest perspective. Donna Marie, B333 question. Is it normal that, in other words, what I'm saying is that if you're talking about yourself, then the way you ask that question is, when I'm on YouTube, how do I know that I'm helping somebody or if I'm wrapped up in my own ego? See, I can answer that. But when it's in the third person, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. I don't know who you're talking about. And more importantly, I don't know why you're asking it. And I'm more interested in why people ask questions sometimes than what they're asking. So I don't know why you're asking that. So try again. Donna Marie B333 question. Is it normal that in the 40 days of ritual things/people around you push back? It is normal. It means that you are having unconscious resistance. So the way that these mantras work is that they are like antivirus programs. You have all kinds of stuff in your unconscious. You have data. You have bad data. Like you have on your hard drive. You have bad corrupted data on your hard drive. You have this in your unconscious mind. The mantra goes in to break that up. Now this bad data includes bad life strategies that were created when you were a toddler to protect you from your parents. But when you become an adult, you no longer need to be protected from your crazy parents. And so what happens is we all do this, we're running around living in a way that's destructive to ourselves, and our unconscious thinks it's protecting us. So when this mantra comes in to defrag your hard drive and it wants to take, let's say you believe that on an unconscious level, you're not worthy to have money. If that's it, the mantra will attack that and try and destroy that. Your unconscious mind says, no, no, no. You believe you don't deserve money, then mommy and daddy will love me if I believe that. And so it tries to protect it in order to protect you. The way you experience that is that all hell breaks loose in your life. It's unconscious resistance. People in your life push back. Things don't work. That's why you can't stop. When you do a 40-day ritual, you have to do it every single day, because at some point, on some level, some worse than others, there will be some kind of unconscious resistance that might show up as chaos in your life. That's not the time to stop. That's what the chaos is trying to do. It's trying to get you to stop. But you can't. It's like being, when you have bad fish, you got to puke it up. Now, you don't want to puke it up. You feel like you're going to get sick. You're consciously saying, I don't want to throw up. But the thing you need to do is get your face over that toilet and throw up. You need to get it out. So, yes, it is normal. Short answer to that question. It is normal. Is this a projection, or is it par for the course that a challenge to your dedication? So, yes, to the last part. Not everybody goes through unconscious resistance, but if you do, if you're toxic, you're toxic. We can't help it. John Burnham, I understand selling knowledge, but my dude, you have got to discipline your condescension. John, I'm the wrong teacher for you. If what you're hearing, if you don't hear what I'm saying is beneficial to you, to your clients, if you have an emotional block to that and you hear me as condescending, then I'm the wrong teacher for you. Plain and simple. If what you're hearing as condescension is actually very strong resolve from personal experience on both sides of that. And I have the same feeling towards it as I do towards somebody who is abusive sexually you can hear the intensity in my voice as I talk about teachers who sexually abuse their students. It's not condescension. If you really believe that, then my response to you is, you have an unconscious agenda to be codependent. If you either believe that teachers should give you things for free and or that you should give things for free to your students, you are unconsciously, selfishly harming them. You are unconscious of your personal agendas wanting their love and attention, or projecting onto them your guilt about charging. So if you honestly believe that and you think that, I haven't asked you, John, I have not asked you for your opinion, nor have I asked you to tell me what I need to know. I have my own teacher. You're not my teacher. So if you feel you need to put me in my place, then I'm clearly the wrong teacher for you. And this is the wrong YouTube channel for you. But there's no way in hell you're going to get me to back off on this. I've explained it in detail. If it doesn't sit right with you, then find a teacher who tells you what you need to hear. Because I'm not going to change on this one. And I'm doing it to protect teachers and students, and I'm doing it so that people can get the most out of their spiritual experience. And I'm sure as hell not going to change that because you have an opinion about me. I'm not going to sacrifice other people's health because you have an opinion about what you see me as being, your judgment of me as being condescending. That's your judgment of me. Whether you're right or not, I can't say. That's for you guys to figure out. But you may want to think clearly about whether or not I'm the right teacher for you if you feel that way. Okay? John Burnham, question. Can you explain, and see, I was right. I mean, I could tell in your first question that you weren't asking me a question, you were passive aggressively judging me. I could tell it, and now you just confirmed what I thought I saw in that, so I appreciate that, but yeah, man. Anyway, yeah, think it over. I might not be the right teacher for you. And here's another question from John. So again, man, if I sense in this question that you're trying to fight with me, and I'm just going to just not answer. So let's see. Question, can you explain why you will talk about Castaneda and Jehovah as teachers, but will drill? Yeah, man, I'm done. Dude, that's not a question. You're wanting to fight with me, you're wanting to challenge me. Please go someplace else. Don't waste my time and other people's time. I'm obviously the wrong person for you, and I don't have time for it. So I'm going to put you in a timeout. Flying Sandcat. All right, so that's not a question either. Who knows? Question. Have you ever heard about someone's energetic body having wings? No. What would this symbolize? I don't know. If I don't know, I don't know. I have nothing against anybody's energetic body having wings, and nor do I know what it symbolizes. So if I don't know, I don't know. Ghost in the Machine, question, third copy. So this is why I don't like to see anything other than questions, because I sometimes miss them. So it sounds like I missed your question. Question, third copy. What is the difference between psychic abilities and empathic abilities? Do they awaken differently? That's a good question. You got me thinking there. They're both related, and they can both, you could technically be right, and if you say both of them. I suppose that depends on whoever's definition is. Empathic abilities probably are more often thought of when people say the word psychic abilities. I'd say more often than not, they're empathic abilities. So, again, I don't make a distinction between the two of them in the sense that ultimately they're a distraction. If through your spiritual practice you become empathic, or through your spiritual practice you become psychic, all it means is that you have unresolved karma. And the way that you balance out your karma is through your spiritual gift, which is another reason why you need to charge people. Because otherwise, this is when people use their gift and it's harmful, and I've already talked about that. And John Burnham got upset by that, but that's why. All right, so I don't see any more questions. I'll take a break. If there are more questions, I will come back to them, but we've been on for a while, and if not, we will end it. And I was going to talk about runes, but we've been talking a long time, so I'll save that for another time. Anyway, see you in a couple minutes. Alrighty. Let's see if there are any questions here. Rami, question. Is there a specific rune that someone can work with above any other runes? Yeah. Whichever one you choose to work with, if you want to focus on that. How can I know which rune is aligned with me? By working with them. Personal experience. Put the time and effort in to work with them and learn about them and experience them, meditate on them. And whichever one reaches out to you, that is probably the one that you need to align with at the moment. And that may change throughout time. Nano Pepsi question. I am very energetically and psychically sensitive person. Is there something in your site or YouTube channel that can help with turning the sensitivity down? Yeah, probably everything I teach. But what it means is that you have weak, it may mean that you have a weak aura, which is the same thing as what I'm going to say later, which is you have probably have psychological boundary issues. Your boundaries aren't, on a psychological level with people, probably are not well defined. So doing self-help work, working with a counselor, this is one of the things that I do. You do that in combination with the energy work that I do, and that will be helpful. The main practice that I teach people to do, I'm writing now, is called the Hool breath. If you type that into YouTube, that will come up. You can do that. I would do that on a daily basis. I would start at 3 minutes and work your way up to at least 10 minutes a day. And if you do that on a daily basis, that will ground you and will heal you and will connect you to the earth, and it will help you. Other than that, there may be some specific things. Like I said, you may need counseling. You may, this is one of the things that I do when I work with people. So is there stuff on my site, the Hool breath, and then if there's really things that you want to go beyond that, then go to thunderwizard.com and decide at what level you want to work with me, and if I can, I'll help you. Skyclad Faye, question. Do you go into a shamanic or meditative state when doing Vedic astrology or rune divinations, or does it just come naturally? I don't consciously try and put myself into a state. If I'm doing a rune reading, I will, each time I'm shuffling the runes, I will, ask for Odin, Vili, and Ve, which is the 3 selves. So I put out the intention to connect on the 3 levels. I'm not trying to get into a psychic state or a meditative state. Having said that, when I do rune readings, I will find that I will be getting intuitions that are coming from somewhere else. When I'm doing astrology readings, the same thing. When I'm looking at somebody's chart, I will get, the certain planet or certain house will pull my attention, and I'll start to get a feeling from it. So I do go into a shamanic state. I don't consciously try and make anything happen. If it's going to happen, it happens. So I hope I answered your question. You missed my question above. What question did I miss? There's a message retracted. Oh, Skyclad Faye question. Regarding my previous question, which I don't remember. It was my husband that did it while I was sleeping. Okay, so I have to go back up and see what you were talking about. Question. I had a difficult situation recently where someone tried to lay their hands on me and pray for me without my permission after I told them I don't believe in God. And then you say, it was my husband that did it while I was sleeping. I'm trying to explain to him that I have changed. His response was that is the reason I'm not healing. I'm really sorry that you had to go through that. I'm sorry that your husband has no idea how destructive that is to you. I don't know. I don't know how best to help you. I mean, this is your husband. It still comes down to boundaries. Your health issue is a boundary issue, by the way. So you're gonna, he's still your husband, and you guys are still committed to each other, and you love each other. And so lovingly, you say to him that I love you and I respect your spirituality. My spirituality is changing. My commitment to you hasn't changed. I still love you. You're still my husband. But as my husband and as my friend, I need you to respect my choices about my spirituality. And, if you're asking me this, that you have a problem that your husband laid hands on you while you were sleeping. I mean, if you were asleep, what difference does it make? He wants to help you. When he says that's why you're not healing, that's his limited understanding. In his mind, he thinks you're rejecting God and rejecting healing. If he wants to put his hands on you and pray for you while you're asleep, I would let him. If it's one thing you're sitting at the table and he walks over and he starts putting his hands on you in Jesus' name, then you can say, hey, come on, give me a break. I don't work that way. But this is different. This is your husband. So, you have to listen to your own instinct. If it really bothers you and you feel violated, then you need to tell him. And you need to tell him lovingly. This is for your healing. We're talking about your healing. You need to tell him lovingly what your boundaries are. And this, here's the thing about consciousness. Here's the thing about evolution. When you evolve, sometimes it will cause problems in relationships, and sometimes it will destroy relationships. So you kind of have to ask yourself, is this relationship getting in the way of your healing? Now, I'm not saying you need to walk away from it today, but the way that you start to heal is by telling people in your life that you love and that love you. You work out boundaries, because this is where the boundaries are the hardest, with the people that we live with, the people that we love. This is the toughest part. But you have to learn to stand up for your own boundaries lovingly and not let people, violate your boundaries. So I hope that's helpful to you. I'm sorry you're going through that. That sounds like a very difficult thing. But yeah, for your health, you need to start firming up your boundaries. And we don't know. I don't know him. Maybe he'll accept it. Maybe he'll flip out. None of that is your problem. How he chooses to respond to you lovingly taking care of your own health is his problem. And then you guys have to decide, what the relationship is going to be after that. Ghost in the Machine. No, okay, that's not a question. Rami, question. Is there a specific rune that someone can... Oh, yeah, she already asked me that. Una Voluspa, what is your bumper music? You mean the music I put when that's me. That's me playing the flute. That's me playing... I don't have it here in front of me. That's me playing a Mojave flute. And I haven't published it yet. It's just a sound file that I have, and I use it for my videos. But it's me playing the flute. Whoop! Off came my somebody took off my bells. Let's see. Who knows? Question: does a soul have access to remember its ancestors? If so, is there a specific process to do so? Are all our genetics connected to ancestors that held animistic beliefs? So those are 3 questions in there. Does a soul have access to remember its ancestors? Like consciously, their name was Bjorn, and I don't know. Maybe. I'm not opposed to the idea of you having an awareness. I'm not consciously aware of the names of my ancestors. I have some ideas about some past lives. I know I've been Chinese in a past life. I know I've been clearly Germanic in a past life. I know I've been Yoruba in a past life. I know I was Neanderthal in a past life. Do I remember everybody's names? No. Is there a specific process to do so? There might be. I'm not aware of it. It makes me want to ask you why you need to do that. How is that information going to help you? I feel a need in there, and whenever I feel a need, I get uncomfortable because when people need stuff, they're not trusting. I'm looking at this for myself because I'm feeling sad and disappointed that I can't snap my fingers and move to Australia permanently. And I have to acknowledge, hey, Mike, that need, that fear is getting in your way. Get rid of that fear or allow yourself to have the fear and go with the flow and trust and go into something you don't understand. So I don't know that you need that information, but I'm not against you trying to find a way to do it. Your last question, are all our genetics connected to ancestors that held animistic beliefs? Yes. If you go far enough back into any cultural or spiritual tradition, you will find animism. Whether you're Muslim, Jewish, Christian, before any of those religions existed, there was an animist precursor to any of them. And then Skyclad Faye invites me to come visit Jeffreys Bay. I hadn't thought about that. I would like to surf Jeffreys Bay. I don't know if it's crowded. I don't want to surf crowded places. So if it's crowded, I don't want to surf it no matter how good it is. But thank you for the invitation. All right, that's it. No more questions. We lost at least a couple of people. We may have lost John Burnham. Maybe he'll come back. Maybe I convinced him I was the wrong teacher for him. And I lost some other new guy, Flying Sandcat. He was asking me about Jesus. And he says, oh no, guess I'm out. So whatever I said about Jesus really bothered him. So don't let the door hit your ass on the way out. Okay, that's it for me. Thank you guys. Maybe I'll see you guys tomorrow. My first weekend back, we'll see. All right, and maybe I should come back tomorrow and start talking about the runes. I do this sometimes. I bite off more than I can chew, and I try and do too many subjects in one session. And so tomorrow, if I'm on tomorrow, we'll talk about how runes work, not the interpretation of specific runes, but how does the energy of runes, how does it work with us? What is it about the runes? What are the runes trying to do? What are they? We'll talk about that. Okay, my friends, we talk to each other another time.